Hi, I'm Donald Devet, the writer and the producer of the Holiday series. I thought it'd be fun to look back and reflect on the experience of making these 10 short films that were produced in the mid-70s for the Charlotte, North Carolina schools. I was hired by the school system as an instructional television producer, and it was my first real job after graduating from college and serving in the Army. And I had never produced a television series like this before, so I was learning a lot as I went along. A television series on holidays had been discussed by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Instructional Television Department long before I came on the scene. Barbara Kajan, a music educator with her own ITV series called Granny, was an early advocate of a program to help elementary kids learn about and appreciate major American holidays. Since I'd had prior experience with puppets on television from my high school and college days, Barbara advocated my taking on the job of writing, producing, and performing the new series. Holiday began production in 1973 with a small cast of puppet characters. Grandpa, his granddaughter Cindy,
"Hey kids, what are some things a tree gives us?"
a cool friend called Geets Romo, and the monster. The monster was just a shameless imitation of Sesame Street's Cookie Monster, except ours was green instead of blue. I gradually added more puppets as dictated by the storyline of each show. For instance, Windy Gale was created as a weather reporter in the Groundhog Day episode. Another reporter character, Walter Crankcase, was added to the cast for the Election Day program. Some of the minor puppet characters had interchangeable features that could be easily and quickly rearranged to create additional characters as needed. At the time, I had never made my own puppets. I knew how to manipulate them and give them voice and character, but not how to construct puppets from scratch. Luckily, I had friends who knew how. Sam Glenn in Columbia, South Carolina, and Peggy Birdsong in Charlotte were the initial builders of the holiday puppets that were made of polyurethane foam covered with terry cloth and fur. Only after the production of the series ended did I build my first puppets. That was when I began working with Drew Allison and the Gray Seal Puppets, where I would spend the next 22 years as a full-time puppeteer. But at the time of the filming of the Holiday series, Drew was still in high school. He puppeteered for Holiday on several episodes, though. You'll see his name on the end credits of the St. Patrick's Day program. After the first two programs were produced, it became clear that I was going to need plenty of help to manipulate all of these puppets. Since there were no professional puppeteers in the area, I recruited my instructional TV colleagues and personnel at WTVI, the public television station that produced the series, and some members of the local puppet guild to help out. They soon learned that television puppeteering was physically hard work. It required long hours of holding up puppets and getting into all kinds of pretzel-like positions to keep their bodies out of the camera frame. Holiday was shot entirely on 16mm film. Back in 1973, WTVI did not have color video cameras. The only way to produce a program in color was to shoot it on color film. To have maximum impact, Holiday was a series that needed to be in color. Luckily, at the same time the series was starting production, recently graduated film majors Scott Guerin, Kurt Hahn, and Myron Emery from California Institute of the Arts were employed at WTVI. Their talents for shooting, editing, writing, and experimenting with new things were put to good use. Each filmmaker was assigned his own episode to which he could put his personal stamp. Myron's talents shined through in the model boat sequence he created for Columbus Day. Kurt Hahn's ability of working with children was put to good use in the St. Patrick's Day episode. And Scott Guerin proved ingenious with the silent movie sequence in Independence Day.
Wow, this must be an old movie.
Shooting on film was great for everyone except the puppeteers. Because of the film camera, we had no way of monitoring how the puppets looked as they were being shot. Unlike stage shows, puppeteers performing for television keep an eye on a video monitor instead of their puppets as they perform. Now, to make this happen for the holiday shoots, a video camera was set up as close to the film camera as possible. This video camera fed the image to a monitor, allowing the puppeteers to see almost exactly the framing of the film camera.
Well, I guess it all started a long time ago with this fella here. His name is Cupid.
This setup meant hauling more equipment on location, but the extra work was worth it. Even though the series dealt with a diverse range of holidays, several recurring elements provided continuity. The most obvious was the stock set of puppet characters, especially Grandpa, Geets, Monster, and Cindy, who appeared in each program. But Holiday was not just a puppet show. Children were a constant presence as well. From the opening balloon segment to an all-children's cast on stage for a St. Patrick's Day show, children were as much a part of Holiday as the puppets.
I love you.
Children's artwork was also prominently featured in each episode. And then there's the animation, both cell and stop motion. The talented filmmakers from CalArts and the graphic artists at WTVI challenged themselves to do something different on each program. Music was another recurring element. Charlotte jazz musicians Bill Hanna and Willie Gillen wrote and performed the catchy holiday theme, as well as many additional pieces. Other musicians and composers contributed, including Charlie Fryer and my wife, Rebecca McClanahan, who wrote the Groundhog Day song, "The Weather Makes Your Day."
The weather makes your day.
Holiday was partially modeled on the PBS series Sesame Street that premiered in 1969, just 4 years before Holiday began production. I was a big fan of Sesame Street and felt I could imitate its successful format.
Well, now that you've all heard about Halloween, I thought I would...
Halloween, the Holiday series pilot program, featured puppet skits performed in studio, intercut with location shots of children painting pictures, bobbing for apples, carving a pumpkin, and spelling the word with large three-dimensional letters. After evaluating that first program, it became clear to me that the puppets had to get out of the studio and into the real world. The next program, Valentine's Day, was a good step in that direction. The front porch of a restored Victorian home in Charlotte was used as Grandpa's home. We continued to shoot in-studio scenes, but it was more fun to get outside. Over the next 3 years, the puppets and puppeteers were put into all kinds of interesting situations. Driving a car, riding a merry-go-round, traveling in a time machine, campaigning for office, and flying a kite. Even though it's been 35 years since I worked on the Holiday series, I can still take pride in the work. Oh sure, the puppets may be a little crude by today's standards, and there's some things I would do over again if I had a chance to do them again today. But I can take comfort in remembering that everyone who worked on that series did their very best.
What did I say?
And we had a lot of fun experimenting with new forms, puppets on location, stop motion photography, and making sure the children were an integral part of the story. I learned a lot about television puppetry while making Holiday that paid off many years later. In 1990, Drew Allison and I produced It's Halloween, one of several half-hour family specials for Charlotte's ABC-affiliated station. When I compare the work done on those shows with the old holiday programs, it's great to realize how worthwhile the holiday experience was and how far we've come.